A shocking wedding rumor about Taehyung and Jungkook spiraled out of control until one mysterious video clip defied all logic. The rumor that shattered everything began with a single question whispered inside a silent studio. Why is there no shadow under Taehyung's hand? The voice was low, almost hesitant, but the question cut through the air like a blade. A dozen eyes shifted toward the large monitor frozen on a paused frame. The alleged wedding clip played on loop, Taehyung and Jungkook seated side by side, fingers brushing, surrounded by soft white flowers and warm golden lighting that looked straight out of a romantic film. At first glance it was perfect, too perfect. The clip had leaked barely an hour ago, yet it had already set the internet on fire. Headlines flooded every platform. Taehyung and Jungkook's secret wedding confirmed. Private ceremony in Europe. Fans shocked by hidden marriage. Inside the conference room, no one was celebrating. "There's no shadow," someone muttered again. "Look, right under his hand." They zoomed in. Taehyung's hand rested gently on the table, but beneath it, where a soft shadow should have existed, there was nothing. The lighting was consistent everywhere else. The flowers cast shadows. Jungkook's arm cast a shadow, but Taehyung's hand didn't. And that wasn't the only thing. His earring didn't sway when he moved. The bouquet between them remained perfectly still, even when Jungkook's elbow brushed against it. Not even a single petal shifted. The video looked real. The colors, the skin texture, the reflections in their eyes, but reality was messy. This was. Taehyung stood near the window, arms crossed, his dark hair catching the late afternoon light. He hadn't spoken since the clip surfaced. His expression wasn't angry. It was distant, like he was staring at something no one else in the room could see. Jungkook, seated a few steps away, finally broke the silence. He looked up at Taehyung, not with accusation, but with something closer to betrayal. "Did you," Jungkook asked quietly, "did you film this?" Taehyung didn't turn around. "No," he replied. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "But someone wanted people to believe I did." The room felt heavier after that. "This isn't just another dating rumor," one of the managers said under his breath. "This is cinematic." And he was right. The framing, the lighting, the angle. It looked like a professionally directed scene, not a leaked fan video. Outside the building, crowds had already started forming. Fans gathered near the gates, holding phones, shouting questions, crying, laughing, demanding answers. Inside, the team watched the clip again and again. Taehyung finally turned back to the screen. "I haven't worn that suit in years," he said slowly. "And Jungkook's hair, that shade was from 2022. Jungkook froze. He leaned closer to the monitor, studying his own reflection in the video. He hadn't noticed it before, but now he saw it clearly. The shorter cut. The exact styling he used during a tour 2 years ago. His stylist confirmed it minutes later. Yet the timestamp on the file said January 25, 2026. Yesterday. A quiet panic spread through the room. This wasn't just a hoax. It wasn't just a deepfake made by a random fan. It was too accurate, too detailed, too personal. "Whoever made this," Taehyung whispered, "knows us better than we know ourselves." The management team scrambled. Lawyers were called. Statements were drafted and deleted. But Taehyung and Jungkook remained frozen in front of the screen, watching every frame. Everything was flawless except for what was missing. No micro movements, no imperfections, no unconscious gestures. No shadow, no chaos, no reality. "It's too perfect," Jungkook said. "Real moments are never this clean." Taehyung nodded slightly. "This clip doesn't want to show us getting married. It wants to show us being watched." Everyone turned toward him. "This isn't romance," he continued. "It's surveillance." At that moment, someone knocked on the door. A trembling intern stepped inside, holding a small flash drive between her fingers like it might burn her skin. "There's another version," she whispered. Taehyung took it without a word. He plugged it into the laptop and pressed play. This time, the camera wasn't in front of them. It was behind them. The angle was wrong. Impossible. The footage showed Taehyung and Jungkook from the back, sitting at the same table in the same room, but neither of them ever looked at the camera, as if they didn't know it existed. And in the reflection of the polished table surface, a figure stood behind them. Unmoving. Faceless. A silhouette with no details, no features, no identity. "That's not from any photo shoot," Taehyung whispered. Jungkook stood beside him, his body stiff. Zoom in. The tech team enhanced the footage slowly, carefully. But every time they zoomed, the image blurred, as if the figure itself resisted being seen. Taehyung felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Why would someone make two versions?" he asked quietly. "One perfect, one like this." Jungkook didn't answer immediately. Then he said something that made the entire room go silent. "Because the first one is the performance," he said, "and this one is the rehearsal." Taehyung turned to him. "You recognize this?" Jungkook hesitated, then nodded. "A few months ago," Jungkook said slowly, choosing his words, "I received an anonymous email. No subject, no message, just a video file." Taehyung's eyes narrowed. "It showed us," Jungkook continued. "Same room, same clothes, same positions. I thought it was fan-made, but it had no watermark, no editing flaws, and my voice, not AI, my real voice." "Why didn't you tell me?" Taehyung asked. "Because I deleted it," Jungkook replied. "I thought someone was messing with me. I didn't want to drag you into it." Taehyung looked away, jaw tightening. "So you kept this to yourself," he said, "while the world thinks we're secretly married." Jungkook stepped closer. "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" Taehyung snapped. "A memory that doesn't exist." Their voices echoed softly against the walls. The team slowly backed away, giving them space. "You don't get to decide what I need protection from," Taehyung said, his tone cold now. "Especially not when someone is targeting both of us." Jungkook rubbed his temples. "You think I don't replay everything, every backstage moment, every glance, trying to figure out when someone was recording us?" Taehyung's breath caught. "You think this is real?" Jungkook whispered. "I don't know," Taehyung answered honestly, "but it feels real, and that's the problem." The intern suddenly spoke again, her voice shaking. "There's something else." She held up a printed screenshot. "The reflection in the table, look closely. There's a timestamp, but it doesn't match the metadata." Taehyung grabbed the paper. "April 17, 2025. His hands froze. "That was the night before your injury," Jungkook whispered. "In Tokyo." The room fell completely silent. That injury had never been discussed publicly in detail. Fans were told it was a minor rehearsal accident, but Taehyung had torn a ligament, and Jungkook had flown back early to stay by his side. So whoever made this had footage from that night. Jungkook exhaled shakily. "This goes deeper than we thought." At that exact moment, every phone in the room chimed. A new clip had just been uploaded. 30 seconds long. No audio. An empty church, 2 chairs, a table, a velvet box with 2 rings inside. The room felt like it had lost oxygen. No one spoke as the new clip replayed on every screen. An empty church, dust floating in soft light through stained glass windows, 2 chairs facing the altar, a small velvet box placed perfectly in the center of a wooden table. Inside, 2 rings. No names, no faces, no sound. Just implication. "Enough," Taehyung said suddenly, slamming his hand against the table. The sharp sound snapped everyone back to reality. "We're not running anymore." Jungkook looked at him, surprised. Taehyung's eyes were steady, but there was something burning underneath. "No more silence. No more letting someone else control this." Jungkook nodded slowly, understanding immediately. Let's go live. The manager froze. What? Tonight, Taehyung said. No scripts, no PR, just us. They used our faces, Jungkook added. Our memories, our past. Let's use our voices. The team hesitated. This wasn't the plan. Every crisis manual said wait, investigate, control the narrative. But the past 48 hours had already destroyed every version of control they thought they had. Sometimes the only way to fight fiction was with truth. Even if the truth was messy. Even if it wasn't ready. They scheduled the live broadcast for 8:00 p.m. As the sun dipped behind the skyline of Seoul, the internet buzzed with anticipation. Fans flooded comment sections with theories. Some were convinced the wedding was real. Others believed it was an elaborate marketing stunt. Some thought it was an AI experiment gone wrong. Backstage, Taehyung and Jungkook sat side by side in silence. No stylists, no cameras, no managers in their ears. Just the two of them. If this backfires, Jungkook murmured, staring at the floor, I'm sorry. Taehyung turned to him. His expression softened for the first time in hours. Then we go down together. The countdown timer appeared on the monitor. The screen lit up. And then everything went black. No intro, no loading screen, no warning. Just a black background and one line of white text. You are not in control of this story. The studio erupted into chaos. What just happened? Check the signal. Audio is fine, camera is fine, why isn't it streaming? The technical director stared at his dashboard, his face draining of color. It's not an error, he whispered. The stream was never allowed to begin. Taehyung felt his stomach drop. This was sabotaged, the director continued. Not from here, from outside. Or inside, Taehyung said sharply. At the same time, their manager rushed in with her phone. It's everywhere, she said breathlessly. Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, everyone got the same message. The live link redirected to that black screen. Jungkook's hands curled into fists. How is that possible? We're verified, two-factor, encrypted. Silence fell. Unless, Jungkook said slowly, someone has access, real access, the kind that lets them speak as us. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Taehyung exhaled slowly. Are you saying one of us did this? I'm saying, Jungkook replied carefully, whoever did this doesn't just know us, they are one of us, at least digitally. Before anyone could respond, a loud notification sound came from Taehyung's laptop. A new file had appeared in his private cloud. Not emailed. Not shared. Not uploaded. It simply existed. File name, final scene, alt take, MP4. Timestamp, 1 hour before the live was scheduled. Taehyung's fingers hovered over the trackpad. Should we watch it? Someone asked. Jungkook didn't hesitate. We don't have a choice. Taehyung clicked play. The video opened in a dimly lit room. Two people sat side by side, hands intertwined. At first the image was blurry, then the resolution sharpened. It was them. Or versions of them. Same faces, same voices, same gestures. But the conversation wasn't familiar. Do you regret it? Alt Taehyung asked softly. Alt Jungkook nodded, every night. The real Taehyung's eyes narrowed. I never said that. Alt Taehyung looked down. Then why didn't you fight for me? Alt Jungkook wiped his face. Because I thought it would hurt less if I let go quietly. The video ended. No fade, no explanation, just black. The room was silent. They're not just fabricating images, Taehyung said slowly. They're scripting entire alternate realities. Ones where we say things we've never said, Jungkook added, his voice low, but that sound exactly like us. Taehyung turned to him. If people see this, they'll believe it's real. They'll think we confessed everything. Then we confess on our terms, Jungkook replied. Not with fake clips, not with shadows and reflections, just us. Before they could move, another file opened automatically. This time, it wasn't a video. It was a document. A transcript. Lines of dialogue filled the screen. Conversations labeled between T and J intimate, personal, detailed. Taehyung stepped back. These are from my personal journal. Jungkook turned sharply. You wrote these? Yes, years ago, handwritten. I never typed them, I never shared them. Then how are they here? Taehyung's voice cracked. I don't know. Jungkook's face darkened. That notebook never left your apartment, except the night your window was broken. Taehyung froze. You said nothing was stolen, Jungkook whispered. Because I thought nothing was, Taehyung replied. I didn't think anyone would steal feelings. They didn't, Jungkook said quietly. They copied them. Taehyung closed his eyes for a moment. We go analog, he said suddenly. Press conference, in person, no live streams, no filters, just real people. And what do we say? Jungkook asked. Taehyung opened his eyes. That we're not actors in someone else's fantasy. That our story is ours, even if it's complicated, even if it's unfinished. They set the time. 10 a.m. Seoul Arts Center. No scripts, no PR statements, just two voices reclaiming their names. But that night, as the city quieted and the lights outside the studio dimmed, Jungkook's phone vibrated. One new message. No sender. No media. Just a single line of text. Then let the audience decide whose story this really is. The press room was already full before sunrise. Reporters lined the entrance of Seoul Arts Center, cameras stacked on tripods, microphones branded with international networks, journalists murmuring in multiple languages. Outside, fans gathered behind barricades, some holding banners, others just holding their phones with shaking hands. Will they really speak? Is it real or just another stunt? What if they're actually together? 3 viral clips, dozens of headlines, thousands of theories. And now this. Backstage, Taehyung stood perfectly still, eyes closed, hands clasped loosely in front of him as if grounding himself. Jungkook adjusted his blazer for the third time, then stopped when he realized his hands were trembling. Are you ready? Jungkook asked softly. Taehyung didn't open his eyes. No, but I'm done being silent. Their manager appeared from the side. We're not using the compromised systems. This is a clean feed, local broadcast only. Taehyung nodded once. As they stepped onto the stage, the room exploded in flashes. Cameras clicked like rain. A low wave of whispers rolled through the audience. But the moment they sat down behind the single table, the noise slowly faded into a tense, expectant hush. Taehyung took the microphone first. Thank you for being here, he said, his voice calm but steady. We didn't ask for this attention. We didn't create these rumors, but silence has allowed other people to speak for us, so we're here to speak for ourselves. Jungkook leaned forward. Over the past few days, videos have circulated, clips showing us in places we were never in, saying things we never said, sharing moments that felt real but weren't. Taehyung continued. Some of those moments were built using private memories, taken without consent, twisted into fiction. A hand shot up in the crowd. The moderator hesitated, then nodded. So what is the truth? The reporter asked. Are you denying a relationship ever existed between you two? Taehyung paused. The room felt like it stopped breathing. We're not here to deny or confirm anything, he said carefully. We're here to reclaim our story. Whatever we are, whatever we've been to each other, it isn't a performance, and it doesn't belong to anyone else. A murmur spread across the room. Jungkook added, there was a time I stayed quiet because I didn't want to ruin the image, the perfect idol, the clean narrative, but that silence created a different illusion, one where people believe they have the right to define our feelings. Another reporter spoke up, so the videos are deepfakes. Some are, Jungkook answered, but the most dangerous ones weren't completely fake. They were close enough to reality to feel believable. Like the rehearsal clip, someone shouted. Taehyung nodded slowly. That footage came from a real concept project that was never released. It was never a wedding. It was never a confession. Whispers filled the room again. Jungkook leaned closer to the microphone. A moment captured without context is not the truth, and just because something feels real doesn't mean it is. A young woman stood up from the back, not a journalist, a fan. "Then why didn't you just tell us?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Why let us believe in something that wasn't true?" Taehyung's voice softened. "Because we wanted to protect the one thing that was still ours, not the version on stage, the one off camera, the one no one ever asked about." Jungkook looked at her and said quietly, "We're sorry, not for what we felt, but for how it was taken from us before we could share it in our own way." The moderator announced one last question. "Do you think this is the end of the story?" Taehyung smiled faintly. "No, but maybe it's the end of the version you thought you knew." They stood up together and walked off the stage. No rehearsed pose, no dramatic exit, just two people leaving side by side. But before they reached the hallway, a staff member ran toward them holding a tablet. "You need to see this." The screen showed a live broadcast neither of them had authorized. A compilation of leaked footage, the rehearsal clip, the surveillance angle, moments that had never happened stitched together with cinematic music. And at the end, a new scene. Taehyung and Jungkook, older, sitting at a kitchen table, morning light through sheer curtains, Taehyung laughing softly, Jungkook reaching for his hand. It looked real. Too real. In the corner, small white text scrolled. Episode 10. Scheduled premiere March 3, 2026. Taehyung stared at the screen long after it ended. "How do they keep doing this?" he whispered. Jungkook's voice was tense. "This isn't editing anymore. This is predictive." "Predictive," Taehyung echoed. "It feels like someone is writing our future before we live it," Jungkook said. "Like they know us so well they can simulate moments that haven't happened yet." Their manager checked her phone again. "That kitchen scene is trending. People think it's a teaser. They're calling it the finale." "Finale of what?" Taehyung asked. "A docudrama series," she replied. "Someone been posting under a channel called Only the Real Know. They uploaded a full trailer. Title, Taehyung and Jungkook, the wedding that was never meant to happen." Taehyung's stomach turned. "They turned our lives into a show." "It's labeled as fictional dramatization," the manager added. "The production company is anonymous, registered under a shell account in Singapore. We can't trace it." Jungkook clenched his jaw. "So what do we do now?" Taehyung was quiet for a moment. "We make our own version," he said finally. The manager blinked. "You mean a response?" "No," Taehyung replied. "A real one. One film, one story, no stylization, no fantasy, just us." Jungkook looked at him. "You want us to release our own documentary?" "If we don't take back the narrative," Taehyung said, "they'll keep selling theirs." That night they filmed in a small studio. No crew, no lighting rigs, 2 chairs, 1 camera. No scripts. Jungkook took a deep breath. "Why didn't we ever talk about this before?" Taehyung met his eyes. "Because we were afraid of ruining something we didn't know how to define." "Do you think we ever figured it out?" Taehyung smiled faintly. "No, but maybe that wasn't the point." The tension between them softened. No drama, no scandal, just honesty. But before they could finish, their manager burst in again. "You need to see this." Another upload. Surveillance footage, grainy, shaky. A hotel hallway, Taehyung entering a room, moments later Jungkook following. No timestamp, no audio. Taehyung felt his chest tighten. This is from years ago. Someone followed us, Jungkook whispered. They've been holding it, the manager said, waiting for the right moment. Jungkook looked at Taehyung. If this leaks, everything we said today gets twisted again. Taehyung swallowed. Unless we include it ourselves. Put it in the documentary, Jungkook said. Explain it on our terms. Taehyung hesitated. That means exposing something we never agreed to share. They already exposed it, Jungkook replied, but they didn't explain it. After a long silence, Taehyung nodded. Then we ended on our terms. The camera rolled again. This time they told the story of that night, not as scandal, not as confession, but as truth. Two people exhausted, frustrated, sitting in a hotel room, drinking tea, talking about boundaries, pressure, and how tired they were of being turned into symbols. That hallway clip wasn't a secret relationship, Taehyung said into the lens. It was a promise to stop letting other people define us. The video response went viral within hours. Comments flooded in, some confused, some skeptical, but many finally saw the difference between curated fiction and lived reality. Later in the editing room, Taehyung glanced at Jungkook. You know what's strange, he said quietly. What? All this chaos, and I feel closer to you than I have in years. Jungkook smiled, me too. At that exact moment, a new message appeared in their inbox. No sender. No subject. Just 5 words. The message didn't feel like a threat. It felt like an invitation. Taehyung stared at the screen for a long time, the 5 words burning into his mind. Final edit. You say goodbye. Do you think it's them again? Jungkook asked quietly. Taehyung didn't answer right away. He closed the laptop, as if cutting the connection might stop whatever was watching them. I don't think it's just one person anymore, he said. It feels like a system, something that learned how people react to us, what makes them click, what makes them believe. Jungkook leaned back in his chair. So basically, an audience that learned how to write us better than we write ourselves. The documentary team had grown, even though they never announced it. Not a traditional crew, but trusted editors, legal advisors, digital forensic experts. People who understood that this wasn't just about privacy anymore. It was about authorship. Who owned a story when millions of people felt emotionally invested in it. That night, they reviewed all the leaked material. Every clip, every fake, every almost real moment. And then something strange happened. Patterns began to emerge. Certain scenes repeated across different edits. Certain emotional beats always appeared in the same order: conflict, distance, regret, reconciliation, a soft ending. It's a template, Jungkook said slowly. They're not just copying us, they're following a narrative structure. A romance arc, Taehyung added, the kind people expect. Jungkook looked at him. And what happens at the end of that kind of story? Taehyung didn't need to think. Someone leaves or someone stays. Either way it closes. Silence stretched between them. So that message, Jungkook said, they want us to perform the ending. The next morning, a new trailer dropped. Not from only the real No. From a different, anonymous channel. Same style, same cinematic tone. But this one was titled simply, Goodbye. The teaser was only 30 seconds. No dialogue. Just a montage. Taehyung walking alone through an empty airport. Jungkook standing on a stage with the lights off. 2 cups of coffee on a table, one untouched. A door closing. And at the end, white text on black. Some stories aren't meant to continue. The internet exploded. Fans cried in comment sections. Some begged them not to separate. Others claimed it was all a marketing trick. Hashtags trended globally within an hour. Don't say goodbye. Let them choose. Real or scripted? Taehyung watched the reactions in silence. It's working, he said. They've trained people to emotionally anticipate our ending. Jungkook's voice was tight. They turned our relationship into a genre. That afternoon, their legal team confirmed what they already suspected. The channels were impossible to trace, servers distributed, accounts registered under fake identities, AI-generated faces used for every supposed producer. It's decentralized, the expert said. Even if you take one down, 10 more can appear. The system feeds itself from engagement. Taehyung laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. So we're fighting a ghost made of algorithms and feelings. Jungkook looked at him. Then maybe we stop playing the game. They sat together in the empty studio, where their own documentary footage waited to be edited. Hours of real conversations, awkward silences, laughter, confusion, memories that didn't fit any clean storyline. No dramatic arc, no clear ending. Just two people trying to exist honestly. What if, Jungkook said slowly, we don't give them an ending at all? Taehyung turned to him. What do you mean? We release everything. Raw, uncut, no narrative structure, no emotional framing, just life. Taehyung considered it. That would confuse people. Exactly, Jungkook replied. Because real life is confusing, it doesn't resolve neatly. They made the decision that night. No finale. No goodbye. No cinematic closure. They uploaded their documentary under their own official channel. Title: We Do Know Either. The description was one sentence. This is not a love story. This is a record. No trailer, no teasers. Just 3 hours of unfiltered footage. The response was different. No screaming headlines, no viral clips. At first, people didn't know how to react. Some viewers complained it was boring, too slow, no drama, no big reveal. Others stayed. They watched Taehyung struggle to articulate feelings, Jungkook changing topics when things got too heavy, long pauses where nothing happened. And slowly something shifted. Comments stopped asking, are they together? And started saying, they feel human. This feels real. I don't know what they are, but I believe them. Meanwhile, the anonymous channels lost momentum. Their latest uploads got fewer views, lower engagement, less emotional response. No one cared about the scripted goodbye anymore. Because there was nothing left to conclude. 3 days later, Taehyung received one final message. No sender. No threat. Just one line. You broke the story. He showed it to Jungkook. Jungkook smiled faintly. Good. That evening, they sat on the rooftop of the building, city lights stretching endlessly below them. No cameras, no live stream, no audience. Just wind and noise from the street, and 2 cups of coffee. So, Jungkook said, what do we tell people now when they ask what we are? Taehyung looked at the skyline. The truth, he replied. And what's the truth? Taehyung thought for a moment. That we're still here, and that's the only part that's real. Jungkook nodded. For the first time since the rumors began, there was no background noise from the internet in their minds. No narrative pressure. No imagined audience. No invisible script. Just presence. And somewhere, in a system built on predicting their emotions, the algorithm had finally reached a dead end. Because there was no longer an ending to optimize for. The silence that followed felt different from all the other silences before. Not heavy, not tense, just quiet. For the first time in weeks, Taehyung woke up without reaching for his phone. No trending alerts, no leaked clips, no anonymous messages waiting in his inbox. The world hadn't ended. It had simply moved on. Jungkook was already in the kitchen, barefoot, making coffee. The window was open, letting in the soft morning air. Traffic hummed in the distance. Somewhere, a neighbor was playing music too loudly. Normal sounds. Real sounds. "You know what's strange?" Jungkook said, handing him a cup. Taehyung took it. "What?" "We spent years trying to control how people see us, and the moment we stopped, everything got quieter." Taehyung smiled faintly. Maybe control was the noise. They didn't talk about the rumors anymore. Not because they were pretending it never happened, but because it no longer felt like the center of their existence. The story had lost its power the moment it stopped being a story. A week later, they walked into a small cafe on the outskirts of the city. No bodyguards, no staff, just hats, hoodies, and two people trying to blend into the background. No one screamed. No one filmed. No one recognized them. Or maybe people did, but chose not to. They sat by the window, watching pedestrians pass by. "Do you miss it?" Jungkook asked. Taehyung tilted his head. "Miss what?" "Being a mystery." Taehyung thought about it. The theories. The edits. The imaginary versions of himself that lived online. "No," he said finally. "I think I was tired of being someone people could finish in their heads." Jungkook laughed softly. "Yeah, like we were a puzzle they felt entitled to solve." They sat in silence for a while, sipping coffee. Not the dramatic kind of silence that begged for meaning. Just two people existing in the same space. Later that night, Taehyung opened his laptop and searched the old anonymous channels. Most were gone. Some still existed, but barely active. Their latest upload struggled to reach a fraction of their former views. The algorithm had moved on to new obsessions. New faces. New narratives. New fictional couples to emotionally invest in. "They replaced us already," Jungkook said, glancing at the screen. Taehyung nodded. "Of course they did, that's how it works. It was never about us. We were just a format." Jungkook closed the laptop. "I don't want to be a format anymore." Taehyung looked at him. "Then don't be." Months passed. They worked separately, together, sometimes in the same city, sometimes not. No announcements. No explanations. No carefully curated moments. Just occasional photos, blurry, unpolished, unremarkable. The kind of content that didn't feed fantasies. And because of that, slowly, people stopped projecting them. They became background. Not headlines. Not symbols. Not theories. Just two names among many. One evening, during a rare break, they met again at the same rooftop where everything had started to feel real. The city lights were still there. The wind still sounded the same. But something inside them had shifted. "Do you think anyone still cares about the truth?" Jungkook asked. Taehyung shrugged. "I think people care about stories. Truth only matters when it's dramatic." Jungkook smiled. "So we failed at being dramatic." "Good," Taehyung replied. "Drama is exhausting." They leaned against the railing, looking out at the skyline. No cameras. No audience. No invisible narrator. Just them. "You know," Jungkook said, almost to himself, "for a while I thought we owed people an ending." Taehyung turned to him. "And now?" "Now I think the only people we owe anything to is us." Taehyung nodded. For years they had lived inside frames. Music videos, interviews, concepts, scripts. Even their real emotions had been filtered through expectations. But now there was no frame. No beginning. No climax. No conclusion. Just continuity. A life that didn't need to make sense to anyone else. Taehyung took a slow breath. "So what are we?" he asked. Jungkook looked at him. Not as an idol, not as a character, not as a rumor. Just as a person. We're two people who survived being turned into a story. Taehyung smiled and chose not to end it. Somewhere on a forgotten server, an abandoned algorithm still waited for the final scene. The goodbye. The last confession. The perfect emotional closure. But it never came. Because the story it was built to finish no longer existed. There was nothing left to predict. Nothing left to optimize. Nothing left to exploit. Only two people, continuing quietly outside the narrative. Not legendary. Not tragic. Not iconic. Just real. And for the first time, that was enough.